Today is the day where the nighttime equals the daytime. That only happens twice in the course of a year. And they call that the equinox. And that means, that the sun is over the equator of the earth. And so it shines equally on the north and on the southern hemisphere. And so that makes the days and night equal. At the end of summer, it means that the days have been shortening since the first day of summer. And now they have shortened to the point from the longest day to a day today where day and night are equal. And as we go towards winter, the winter solstice, the first day of summer is the summer solstice. So 6 months later, we arrive at the winter solstice. And that's the shortest day and the longest night. So we're at the point of balance between the two, the equinox. And there's nothing like balance to help us to understand what is going on. In a few more days, I'm sure there could be as much as a race war. That's what happened 100 years ago. See, just look in history. History tends to repeat itself unless people learn the lessons of history. And one old professor, he said that the first lesson of history that you have to learn is that people don't tend to learn the lessons of history. They tend to not know them in the first place because they're not taught the lessons of history. And so they endlessly repeat the lessons of history. So 1917, 1918, 1919, all the way into 1920, you had race riots. Remember, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, I believe it was. Correct my dates if I'm wrong. I don't claim to be a historian, but around that time, you see, these cycles repeat themselves. And of course, that was a bid for a radical revolution inside the United States. And in order to do that, there was the ignition of a race war. Remember, The Birth of a Nation was the film that was premiered at the White House by Woodrow Wilson, the blackmailed president, who was being blackmailed over an illicit sex affair. And so he was made to do anything he was told to do. And that was one of the things he was told to do. And this is what revived the Klan 100 years ago. And so you see the same play being exercised today. Riots in the streets, racial tensions being heightened, all kinds of staged events. And some are real, there's some real blood in the street, don't get me wrong, but a lot of that is staged, this is scripted, Somebody said, I can't remember the very important person, please forgive me, but I can't remember the person who's so important who said it, but they are very important. And they said that nothing that happens accidentally. It's all scripted. So these are the decisions that people make that determine history. Now, I actually wasn't going to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the fact that Columbus Day is coming up. You see, everybody knows in 1492, Columbus sailed what? The ocean blue. You see? And they say he discovered America. He discovered people here. So he actually, at most, could claim to rediscover America. But, that's the easy point. Anybody can make that point. But do you know in 1422, the Chinese admiral, Wang Wei, I'm sure I'm mangling the name, but the great admiral of the fleet of the Ming Dynasty, He sailed to what we now call Chile. That was his third voyage. He made three major voyages. The third voyage was he came across the Pacific Ocean, and they landed in what we would now consider to be Chile, and left inscriptions. There's records of their landing. Then they went back home. And you see, that's when the Ming Emperor in China, who had 500 ships, I mean, this admiral, Huang Hui, and he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim. Yeah, his Muslim name was Shamsuddin. Yes, and on, I think, his second voyage, where he sailed west from the South China Sea. And you can go to China today and see a statue of who I'm talking about, the great admiral of the Chinese fleet, the Muslim admiral. And on his second fleet, among other things, he sailed all the way to Arabia and made Hajj. So it's El Haji Shamsuddin. That was his Muslim name. But of course, he was Chinese, Chinese Muslim. And so he was a great hero. But when he came back from the voyage across the Pacific, and he came back with no goods, you see, no finished goods. I mean, the Chinese were trading people then, they're trading people now. And see, so then the emperor made what is now historically perhaps an unwise decision. He said, well, since they have nothing to trade over there, you know, it must be a world full of barbarians. And so they closed China down, burned the fleet. And that was the end of Chinese exploration until now. And so now I don't think they're going to make the same mistake. And it's relevant because their Navy is now said to be larger than America's Navy. You see, so he who rules the seas rules the world, because this is a water planet. And so we'll see whether the Chinese Communist Party will make the same mistake as the Ming Emperor. Now, the African emperor of Mali, the emperor of Mali, Abu Bakr II, he was an explorer too, even earlier than the Chinese admiral. And he sailed from Mali across the Atlantic and landed in what we now call Brazil. That's why you find African people in Brazil. They want to say, well, the only Africans that came to Brazil were brought as slaves. No, they were the first explorers, and they established a colony in Brazil. Now, again, I'm not the historian. I'm just telling you some things that I learned from people who really are historians by reading some of their books. You see, Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, all these people, they wrote down the history, and we should read it, you see, so we actually understand who we are and what we did, you see. Read about the decisions made, you know, in the Ming Dynasty in China, see, 500 years ago, that determined the history for the next 500 years. Suppose China had stayed on the high seas with its massive fleet. It was 500 major ships. I mean, these ships were huge compared to the Mina, the Maria, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, whatever it was, the Santo Domingo, whatever those three ships that Columbus came over. Have you ever seen those ships, how tiny they were? Really tiny. I mean, they're not even as big as the average poor man's yacht. I'm telling you, you know, maybe like 60 feet long, something. Somebody look that up. It's tiny, tiny little boats. You would not be impressed. You would be shocked at how small they were. You see, but the Chinese had these huge, they call them junks, and they were trading vessels, and they set up trading posts everywhere they went. And that's why you find Chinese people all over Indochina, because they populated it through those voyages of Wang Zhe. Somebody tell me how to say it right, you know, because I want to respect the brother. And the same thing, suppose the emperor of Mali, again around 500 years ago, suppose he had made a different decision. See, what happened was he abdicated the throne because he wanted to be an explorer. And so he put together a fleet, went across the Atlantic. But something happened. It was a mystery. Something happened. They didn't get back. So his brother, who assumed the throne in Mali, remember, Mali had more gold than anybody. You see, they had so much gold, they didn't know what to do with it. So suppose they had said, well, wait a minute, I'm going to go find my brother. They didn't come back when they were supposed to come back. Let's go get them. And call the captain of the guard. Say, let's go get them. The captain of the Navy, let's go get them. Let's send a rescue search mission and go and bring them back, you see. See, if we had had that capability as a Navy, you see, think what would not have happened. You see, if we had not quit the high seas. But the emperor of Mali, his brother didn't come back. He's heartbroken. He said, well, he shouldn't have gone in the first place. And they shut down their navy and burned the ships. And that left the oceans open to the Europeans, the Portuguese and the Spaniards. And with the help of half original man Columbus, yeah, the half original man, there he goes again, the half original man, he showed them the way. He showed them the door, how to get into the Western Hemisphere across the ocean, and they did it. If Mali had stayed on the ocean, if the Ming dynasty, the Chinese, had stayed on the ocean, you see, the last 500 years of history would have been quite different. And that's the point as we go into what they call Columbus Day. And don't forget, even before that, there in ancient, so-called ancient history of Egypt, you had Captain Maui and his expedition from Egypt. He sailed all the way from the Nile Delta, all the way across the Indian Ocean, across the Pacific, and he also landed in what they call the Easter Islands and into Chile and all that area of the Andes. Where do you think the name Maui came from? It's named for Captain Maui. That was the name of the Egyptian captain. This was before Christ. This was BC. I don't know the exact date. And they left the Egyptian artifacts all along the way. And you see, you can go into the Grand Canyon to this day and you can find Egyptian artifacts. Go look and see the parts of the Grand Canyon that are off limits. And you'll see that there are Egyptian settlements there, Egyptian temples there in the Grand Canyon right now. But you can't go there, they're off limits. You see, so this is hidden history that has to be uncovered. I'm not the historian. Don't quote me. Don't tell somebody that you heard it from me. No, you go read Dr. Ben, Dr. Van Sertima, all of the great, John Henry Clark, all of the great. I don't even see, I'm such a lousy historian. I don't even know who the ones to tell you to go see. Now, I know Dr. Ben was the one to help me. And Dr. Van Sertima helped me to understand a little bit. And don't forget Carter G. Woodson and all the rest of them. Man, and J.A. Rogers. Yeah, we read J.A. Rogers back in the day in the Nation of Islam. J.A. Rogers was the man. Yes, sir. But there were so many others and so many since that time. You know, the modern ones. I mean, we got so many. Dr. Browder and the Crothers and, oh my goodness, Tony Martin, all the rest of them. We got so many, and we need to read them. When we need to read what Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington wrote down in their own words. We need to do a better job of respecting our own history and our great heroes of our history. And then we will have a better perspective on ourselves. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.